I sold my father's old truck just to help her chase her dream. But she threw it all away for my best friend, a man who never held a job longer than a month. Before watching the video, please tell us in the comments, which country are you watching from? My name is Ethan Cole, and I am 31 years old. Life felt peaceful then, almost perfect in its simplicity. I worked long hours as a mechanic, fixing engines, saving every dollar, dreaming of something bigger. My girlfriend, Emily, always said she believed in me. And my best friend, Ryan, was like a brother. The three of us spent weekends together, barbecues, movie nights, and small-town drives that felt endless. I thought loyalty was simple. You give your heart, and people protect it. Emily would bring me lunch at the garage sometimes, wiping grease from my face and laughing when I teased her. Ryan would hang around too, cracking jokes, helping me close up. To me, they were the two people I could trust with my life. I never imagined those same faces would become my nightmares. Still, I can't forget how easy the world felt before everything fell apart. We used to talk about our futures. Emily wanted to start her own bakery, and I promised to help her no matter what it took. Ryan talked about traveling, seeing the world before settling down. I admired him, honestly. He had that kind of charm everyone liked, even when he did nothing to earn it. But I never thought Emily noticed him in that way. Not then. Looking back, there were signs, small ones that slipped through my fingers like oil. Emily started dressing differently when Ryan came over. Ryan stopped making eye contact when I mentioned her name. It's strange how betrayal doesn't happen all at once. It crawls in quietly, pretending to be friendship. Still, I ignored it. I believed love was stronger than suspicion. I believed in loyalty more than my own instincts. When you love someone, you don't search for cracks. You seal them. So I smiled through doubts, laughed at my fears, and convinced myself that the unease was just stress from work. One night, Ryan and I sat on the porch, watching the sunset fade behind the trees. He said, "You're lucky, man. Emily's 1 in a million." I nodded, proud, unaware that his words carried something darker. That night should have been peaceful. It was the last time I ever felt truly safe. If I could go back, I'd tell myself to look closer, to notice the silence between their glances, the messages that stopped making sense, the sudden excuses. But hindsight is cruel. It reminds you how blind love can make you. At that time, though, I was just a man who thought his world was stable. I didn't know the storm had already begun. Every smile I trusted, every promise I believed, was a countdown to heartbreak. At first, I told myself I was imagining things. Emily was busier, that was all. She said her bakery dreams were taking shape, that she was meeting potential investors and suppliers. But her perfume started changing. Her phone buzzed late at night. When I asked, she smiled and said, "Just business." I wanted to believe her because believing her hurt less than the truth. Ryan also changed. He wasn't around as much, but when he was, he avoided my eyes. The easy friendship between us began to fade, replaced by awkward pauses and half-finished sentences. When I joked about it, he laughed too quickly, like he needed to fill the silence before it exposed him. I told myself it was stress, not guilt. I told myself men like Ryan didn't betray friends like me. One evening, Emily said she had to work late again. I made dinner and waited. Hours passed. My calls went unanswered. By midnight, I drove past her workplace, only to find it dark and locked. The streetlights flickered as I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, convincing myself there was a logical reason. Love makes fools of us. And that night, I was the biggest one alive. Days turned into weeks. Ryan avoided the garage completely. Emily started staying over at her friend's apartment downtown, claiming it was easier for early meetings. Her excuses piled up, but her tone stayed sweet. That sweetness was poison. I drank it anyway. Every time I looked at her, I saw the woman I'd built a future around, not the stranger she was becoming. Then came the whispers. A coworker asked if everything was okay between us. My neighbor mentioned seeing Emily's car near the old motel by the highway. I laughed it off, pretending it was nonsense, but deep down, something inside me cracked. I stopped sleeping. I started checking my phone every hour, rereading our old messages like a man trying to revive a ghost. One night, while cleaning the garage, I found Ryan's lighter under Emily's seat in my truck. My throat tightened. I could still smell her perfume on the upholstery. That small object felt heavier than any truth I'd ever faced. I stared at it for a long time, the metal burning against my palm, wondering how far their lies had gone. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the porch till dawn, watching the sky turn red. Betrayal isn't loud. It's quiet, patient, and cruel. It waits until you stop doubting and start trusting again. And when you finally relax, it stabs you clean through the back. By the time the sun rose, I wasn't the same man anymore. Something inside me shifted. The calm, trusting version of me died with that sunrise. What replaced him was colder, quieter, sharper. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to know. It happened on a Thursday night, a night that started ordinary but ended everything I believed in. I was closing the garage when my coworker, Mark, stopped by. He looked uneasy, his hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets. "Ethan," he said quietly, "I saw Emily tonight. She wasn't alone." My heart stopped mid-beat. The world tilted, but I forced a laugh. "You're mistaken," I said. But his eyes told me I was wrong. He mentioned a motel by the old highway, the same one people whispered about. I remember driving there like a man possessed. The rain came down in sheets, my wipers barely keeping up. My hands gripped the wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. Each mile felt like a countdown to something I didn't want to see, but had to. When I reached the parking lot, her car was there. Silver, parked under a flickering streetlight. I sat there for a minute, breath shallow, eyes fixed on that car. My chest felt hollow. Then I saw it, Ryan's jacket hanging from the rearview mirror. That single sight cut deeper than any blade. I stepped out into the rain, every drop stinging my skin like punishment. My boots splashed through puddles as I moved closer to the room Mark had mentioned. I could hear muffled laughter inside. Emily's voice, Ryan's voice, a sound I once loved now twisted into something unbearable. I stood there, hand trembling on the door handle, trying to decide if I wanted the truth, or if ignorance was kinder. Then the curtain shifted, just enough for me to see inside. Two shadows moved together, laughing, kissing. My body went cold, my heart frozen mid-beat. I felt like the ground opened beneath me. The rain blurred my vision, but not enough to hide what I saw. That image burned itself into my mind forever. I didn't knock. I didn't scream. I just turned around and walked back into the storm. The sound of their laughter chased me down the parking lot like a ghost. My clothes were soaked, my soul torn apart, but I refused to break there. The pain was too sharp for tears. It was the kind that numbs everything. Driving home, I didn't even feel the road. My hands moved automatically, but my mind was gone. The woman I loved, the friend I trusted, they had carved my heart out and left me hollow. The worst part wasn't that they betrayed me. It was that they looked happy doing it. When I reached home, I stared at the mirror and saw a stranger. That man's eyes were red, his face empty, his heart silent. Something inside me died that night, but in its place, something darker started to grow. What would you do if someone you loved betrayed you like this? Comment below. I didn't confront them. Not that night, not the next day. I went to work, fixed cars, smiled at customers, and acted like nothing happened. Inside, though, I was breaking apart piece by piece. My silence became my armor. If they wanted to lie, I would let them drown in their own performance. Emily came home late again, her hair damp, her perfume faintly mixed with rain and smoke. She smiled like always, kissed my cheek, and asked about dinner. I nodded, pretending everything was normal. Every word she spoke now sounded like glass in my ears, beautiful but sharp. When I looked at her, I didn't see love anymore. I saw betrayal wearing my favorite face. Ryan texted me that night. "You good, man? Haven't seen you around." I stared at the message for a long time, wondering if he felt guilt or if he was just checking if I knew. I didn't reply. I wanted him to wonder, to sweat, to look over his shoulder every second. Silence, I realized, could be louder than any scream. Days turned into weeks. Emily laughed, cooked, and acted like everything was perfect. I played along, watching her carefully. Every smile, every lie, every moment was a rehearsal for something bigger. I wasn't planning forgiveness anymore. I was planning truth, cold, public truth that would burn them both. At night, when she slept beside me, I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling. Her phone would buzz, and I'd feel her shift slightly, checking messages under the blanket. Sometimes I'd hear her whisper, "Good night," followed by the soft click of a sent text. She thought she was clever. She thought I was blind. I started collecting pieces, small, quiet evidence, photos, receipts, patterns. Each clue became a brick in the wall I was building between who I was and who I was becoming. I no longer needed to ask why. I just needed to wait for the right moment. The day I'd expose them wouldn't be born out of rage. It would be born out of precision. The strangest part? She never noticed. Maybe guilt made her numb. Maybe arrogance made her stupid. I started to enjoy that, watching her pretend, knowing every secret she thought she'd buried. The silence wasn't punishment for her anymore. It was power for me. Ryan's wedding announcement came one morning through mutual friends. He was marrying a woman named Claire, someone he met at a work event. The irony nearly made me laugh. A man who betrayed his best friend, now promising forever to someone else. It felt like fate handing me a loaded weapon. That night, I poured myself a drink, leaned back, and finally smiled. I didn't need revenge through anger. I'd let the truth destroy them both in front of the world. The silence had done its job. It had given me time to prepare. When Ryan announced his wedding, I almost laughed out loud. The same man who stole my girlfriend now wanted me to stand beside him as his best man. The irony cut deep, but it also handed me exactly what I'd been waiting for. A perfect opportunity wrapped in celebration and lies. He called me one night, his voice full of fake warmth. "Ethan, I can't imagine anyone else standing by me on that day," he said. My heart clenched, but I forced a calm smile into my voice. "Of course, man. Wouldn't miss it for the world." I could almost hear the devil grinning on the other end. When I hung up, I stared at my reflection in the window. My face was still, but my thoughts burned like fire. This wasn't about rage anymore. It was about control. Slow, deliberate justice. I'd been quiet long enough. Now it was time to speak, not with words, but with truth that would echo louder than their deceit. Over the next few weeks, I played the role perfectly. I met Ryan's fiancée, Claire. She was kind, gentle, and clearly loved him more than he deserved. Watching her reminded me of myself, someone blinded by trust, walking straight into heartbreak. Every time she smiled, I felt both anger and pity. She didn't know she was marrying a man who already belonged to betrayal. Emily tried to act supportive about the wedding. She even offered to help me pick a suit. I nodded, pretending not to notice how her eyes flickered with unease when Ryan's name came up. Guilt was a disease she carried quietly, and I was about to make it terminal. Behind the scenes, I gathered everything: texts, photos, motel receipts, and one final piece: security footage from that rainy night. The motel manager, an old client of mine, owed me a favor. When he handed me that flash drive, he said, "Whatever this is for, I hope it brings peace." I smiled faintly. Peace wasn't what I was after. Truth was. Every night I rehearsed my plan like a movie script. I would wait until the wedding, until the vows, until every smiling face turned toward the altar. Then I would press play. No yelling, no chaos. Just truth unfolding in front of an audience too large to ignore. As the wedding day approached, I felt calm for the first time in months. Not happy, not healed, just ready. Emily kept asking if I was okay. "You seem different," she said. I simply replied, "Just thinking about the future." She smiled, unaware that her future was about to end in front of everyone she ever respected. The perfect opportunity wasn't something I created. It was something fate handed to me, and I was going to use it to end every lie they ever told. The church was dressed in white roses and gold ribbons, glowing under soft morning light. Guests filled the pews, smiling, laughing, clapping hands. Ryan stood at the altar in his tuxedo, pretending to be a man of honor. Emily sat near the front, dressed elegantly, her eyes darting toward me every few minutes. She looked nervous, and she had every reason to be. I stood beside Ryan, feeling the weight of years between us. Friendship, loyalty, betrayal. He leaned over and whispered, "Thanks for being here, man. Means a lot." I smiled, steady, calm. "Wouldn't miss it," I said. My voice didn't shake. My heart didn't race. The storm inside me had already passed. Now, only silence and clarity remained. As the ceremony began, Claire walked down the aisle, radiant, her eyes filled with love. The crowd sighed as the music swelled. Ryan looked at her like she was the only woman in the world. I wondered if he looked at Emily the same way in that motel room. The thought tightened my jaw, but I stayed still. Every second brought me closer to the truth I'd been waiting to reveal. When the priest said, "If anyone has reason, these two should not be joined. Speak now," the church fell silent. I reached into my pocket, pressing a small remote connected to the projector screen behind the altar. My voice stayed calm. "Actually," I said softly, "I do." Heads turned. The screen flickered to life. Gas filled the air as the video began. The image was grainy but clear. Ryan and Emily at the motel, laughing, kissing, lost in their secret world. A collective breath escaped the room. Claire's bouquet slipped from her hands. Ryan's face drained of color. Emily covered her mouth, frozen. No one moved. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Then whispers started, spreading like wildfire through the guests. "Is that her? That's Ryan. Oh my God." Claire stumbled backward, tears streaking her face. Ryan reached for her, stammering, "It's not what it looks like." But the truth was already carved into every pair of watching eyes. I turned to him slowly. "You said loyalty meant everything," I whispered, loud enough for the mic to catch. "Guess it only mattered when it benefited you." His mouth opened, but no words came out. I stepped back, letting the chaos unfold. Emily tried to leave, but people blocked her path, murmuring, judging. Ryan fell to his knees as Claire walked away without looking back. The priest quietly closed his Bible. The wedding was over, but the reckoning had just begun. I walked down the aisle, every eye following me, but I didn't care. The truth had spoken louder than any revenge plan ever could. As I stepped outside, sunlight hit my face. For the first time in months I could breathe. If you were in my place, would you forgive or walk away? Tell me in comments. The wedding ended in chaos. The guests scattered like smoke, whispers filling the air. Ryan stood frozen at the altar, his life crumbling in front of him. Emily slipped out the back door, tears streaking her makeup, her once perfect mask finally cracked. The truth had scorched everything it touched. For a few days, my phone buzzed nonstop. Calls, messages, gossip. Some praised me, others called me cruel. But I didn't care about opinions. I hadn't done it for revenge anymore. I'd done it for release. I needed the world to see what they had done, to me and to themselves. Ryan's marriage never happened. Claire left town 2 days later, humiliated and heartbroken. His business partners backed away, unwilling to work with someone whose scandal was public. His arrogance, the same charm that used to draw people in, now repelled them. He became the man I always suspected he was, empty behind the confidence. Emily tried to call me once. I didn't answer. She texted, "Can we talk?" I read it, stared at it, and deleted it. There was nothing left to say. Love turned to poison, and I refused to drink it twice. She moved out quietly, leaving behind her perfume, her clothes, and every ghost of who she used to be. At night, I'd sit on my porch with a drink, staring at the quiet street. The satisfaction didn't last. Revenge gives you fire, but when the smoke clears, you're left standing in ashes. I realized I didn't want to be defined by what they'd done. I wanted to be free of it. A week later, I drove past the old motel. The neon sign flickered just like that night. I parked for a moment, rolled down the window, and let the cold air hit my face. The place no longer hurt me. It was just a building, a grave for a past version of myself. I smiled for the first time in months, not out of joy, but acceptance. People in town stopped whispering after a while. Life moved on as it always does. But I moved differently now, slower, quieter, more deliberate. I didn't seek attention, didn't crave pity. I just worked, saved, and started thinking about leaving the town where everything fell apart. Ryan's face became a rumor. Emily's name became a memory. My silence, once heavy, now felt like peace. The pain had burned away everything weak in me, leaving only steel beneath. I wasn't proud of what I'd done, but I wasn't ashamed either. I had simply given truth a stage. And now, with the fire finally gone, all that remained was rebuilding, brick by brick, day by day, until the man I used to be felt like a stranger. Months passed before I realized I was no longer waking up angry. The house felt lighter, the mornings quieter. The air didn't carry bitterness anymore, just calm. I'd left that old town behind and moved to a small city 2 hours away. No one there knew my story, and that was exactly what I needed. I found an old garage for sale, its walls cracked, its floor dusty. Most people would have walked away, but to me, it looked like a second chance. I spent weeks fixing it up. New tools, new paint, new name, Cole's Auto and Restoration. The first time I turned the key to open it, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. Customers started coming in slowly. Word spread that I was honest, dependable, and good at what I did. Every car I fixed felt like another piece of myself being rebuilt. I wasn't the broken man from that motel parking lot anymore. I was someone who would walk through fire and come out tempered. Emily emailed once. Her words were long, filled with apologies and excuses. She said Ryan had left town too, that she regretted everything. I read her message twice, then deleted it without replying. Forgiveness didn't mean opening old wounds. It meant refusing to bleed for them again. I'd forgiven her in silence, but only for my own peace. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about that day in the church. The gasps, the silence, the moment truth burned the lies away. If I could go back, I wouldn't change it. Not because it was perfect, but because it ended a chapter I never had the strength to close myself. One evening, a young man walked into my shop. He reminded me of myself years ago. Quiet, hardworking, too trusting. He talked about his girlfriend, how he'd been helping her through school. I smiled and said, "Just make sure she's helping you too." He nodded, not understanding yet. I didn't. Say more. Some lessons you only learn through pain. Now when I look in the mirror, I see someone who survived. Not a victim, not a hero, just a man who learned. Revenge gave me closure, but rebuilding gave me peace. My life didn't end with betrayal. It began after it. As the sun sets outside my garage, I wipe my hands, close the door, and breathe in the quiet. The scars are still there, but they no longer ache. They remind me of everything I lost and everything I became because of it. This is how my girlfriend betrayed me. Should I forgive or move on? Tell me in comments. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories of truth, heartbreak, and redemption.